In today's episode of the podcast, I am going to be answering your questions about modeling, about how to avoid creepy photographers, how to stay safe, how to convince your parents to let you start modeling, how to reach out to photographers if you're shy, what are the mental blocks that I've gone through, what are the things that I think are toxic about the modeling industry, how to not compare yourself to other models' success and bodies, and many more questions. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm super excited because today we're going to be doing a Q&A. Thank you so much for sending the questions, and also thank you so much for listening if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and thank you so much if you're watching on YouTube. So let's get started. So the first question is, why did you start modeling? So I actually have an entire episode of the podcast dedicated to how I started modeling, which I'm assuming I go into why I started modeling. But basically, I had a classmate in like first grade, and she modeled for a very famous pajama store from El Salvador, which is where I'm from. And I just thought it was really cool. Like, I think that's like my first ever memory of like connecting like modeling to knowing a person that does it and thinking like, wow, that's so cool. And I want to do it. But I never thought it was something like attainable. I thought it was like super far off type of dream. So I just like, that's kind of like a thing in the back of my head. Then fast forward, I'm a teen and it was America's Next Top Model, like prime time. And I watched it and I fell in love with the process of modeling. It was not the contracts, the money, the fame. None of those things were attracted to me. Like, it was literally the process. Like, I love seeing the models, get the announcement that they were going to do a shoot, and then getting into set, and then getting their makeup and hair done, and then getting the explanation of what's happening, what's going on, and then seeing them, struggle with the poses, because you realize that, like, modeling is not that easy. You have to know your angles, you have to know the lighting, you have to know the poses, you have to work with your background, with like your entire like area that you're with. You have to work with people alongside you. And it's just like this entire thing, and you see all of that. And in the final episode, on the final part of the episode, you see the final image. And that just blew my mind. It just blew my mind that I saw the entire process and I saw something with a different point of view. And then I get to see the final image and I'm just like, wow. So that's really the moment that I thought that modeling was like super cool and I wanted to do it. But again, it still felt unattainable. And then fast forward, I finally got the opportunity to start and here we are. But that's like the main reason that I wanted to start. How do you deal with creepy photographers? So I actually have an entire episode about this, about sexual harassment and dealing with creepy photographers on my podcast. It's on YouTube and it's on Spotify podcast. You can listen to the full episode. We talk about a situation that happened to another model. Her name is Sydney. And at the end, towards like the end of the episode, we discuss many ways that you can stay safe and take care of yourself. So I'm going to like summarize all of that. So basically, one of the things that I really learned throughout time is really checking, not going through the pretty image that I'm seeing, not just going through like, wow, that's a great quality photo, that's really cool image, and really checking, going to the big picture of what is really this photographer shooting. What is he really shooting, or she, it could be a she. Because once you see exactly this style that they go for, once you exactly see the pattern that they have and exactly the type of thing that they like to shoot, you have a really big answer there, either between go for it or avoid that photographer. Another thing too that you can do is that most photographers, it's really rare honestly, most photographers will tag the models that they work with. So you can always DM the models and tell them like, hey, I noticed that you shot with this and this photographer. Can you please tell me your experience? Do you recommend working with them? Blah, 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 things like that. Message as many models as you can. And that's going to give you a better idea. Like, okay, sure, like I should really work with him or her, or actually, I should stay safe and like avoid the situation. And then the last thing that I really want you to do, and I really hope you guys do it, is to never, ever, ever, ever go to a test shoot alone, especially with somebody that you don't know, and especially if it's just gonna be the photographer and you. Like, please. Like, the most of the stories that I hear from, unfortunately, from models that have experienced sexual harassment is that situation. You going to a shoot alone, or like the episode with Sydney, is that she did bring someone with her, but she got left in another different room while she was shooting with a photographer in a different room. So that's another thing too. Like, if you are bringing someone with you, no, that person is not waiting on the waiting area. Like, that person's gonna be, their eyes are gonna be stuck to you the entire time. So that's another thing. Like, yes, do not do the mistake of bringing someone with you and then leaving them on the side of the shoot. Like, no, that person is there to keep eyes on you and on the photographer the entire time. So make sure that you do that. Please don't fall into that mistake. These questions are pretty serious, by the way. So, but I'm glad we're talking about this. So what is the most toxic part about the modeling industry that you have experienced? Besides what we just talked about, I think one of the things is just like the fact that we are still like the industry, and I'm not gonna say the industry as a whole because obviously there's different people with different opinions, but there's a really big important group of people that are still gatekeeping what a model should look like. And to me, that doesn't make any sense, you know. And I know a lot of people disagree with diversity and inclusion in terms of like modeling, and they do believe that a model should have this unattainable beauty and should be this fantasy and something that is you're like dreaming about, and like very glamorous, like really outside of like your typical human being. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. To me, it's just like to me, from the research that I've done in terms of like sales and business and profit and all that stuff, that doesn't go along, at least for brands that had nothing to do with high fashion, that are still in that path, you know. And that's just one of the things that I think are very toxic, because people come in all shapes and sizes. And I mean, people have said that they really appreciate looking themselves through a model and being able to see like, oh, you know what, I can wear that, or that will fit me, you know. So that's one of the things that are like toxic about the industry, and that like goes into like a lot of other things about like pressuring models to be like super thin and pressuring them to be super pressed about clear skin and all that type of stuff. So I think that's something that it's not good, but I do see the industry evolving into more diversity and inclusion. You know, we still have a long way to go, but I am positive about it though. All right, on to a brighter subject. How do you make yourself stand out when emailing modeling agencies? Things to include, leave out. So the most important thing, I think, like the core of your email has 100% has to be great digitals and including your measurements. And I'm saying those two big ones because whenever, not all agencies in their website, you know, when they have the application form, not every single agency has more than that. You know, most agencies only ask you for measurements and your digitals, you know. So I really, like, if you are ever emailing any agency, at least like the bare minimum would be to include your digitals and your measurements. But since you're emailing an agency, that means that you have this like opportunity to include whatever else you want, and that will be something that is going to help you stand out, obviously. So I would say 100% include something that shows personality, you know, include whatever other skills you have, whatever other languages you speak. If you took any acting classes, if you are doing community service, if you have any certain hobbies that you enjoy, if you run a page on Instagram about jewelry, or if you're like super into makeup and you do YouTube videos about makeup, like include all of that. Because the thing is that I know so many people, including myself before, like we do this, you know, because we don't know what we're doing. But if you're emailing an agency and you're telling them like how passionate you are about modeling and how you will do everything to be a model and how hard you're going to work as a model and everything is about modeling and nothing else is on your email, just think about it. Just think about this huge group of let's think about 50 models that's in front of you, including yourself. And when they ask all of them what they like, what they enjoy, every single one of them says modeling. And they're all beautiful. They're all beautiful and they all have the same measurements. And it's like identical, almost people, let's say, for example. And they all say that most important thing about them is modeling. They enjoy modeling, they're passionate about modeling, and everything that you could write an email to an agency. How are they going to stand out? They're all the same, you know? But if one model says like, you know what, I really enjoy photography, you know, I've been shooting landscapes for 3 years, or like, you know what, I really enjoy languages and I know 5 languages, or you know what, like I am super into fitness and I run a fitness page on my Instagram, or you know what, like I actually have been done wall climbing for the past 3 years, you know, like, and that you're starting to see more color on that person, you know, more personality, and you know, agencies like that, you know, and that's how you can stand out. So besides your details and your measurements, please add anything else that you love, you like, and you do about, you know, you and your life, but don't include how much you love modeling, basically. All right, next question. Can I still do editorial shoots even though I'm too short and more fit for commercial modeling? So the answer is yes, 100%. Like, this is what I tell everyone. Modeling is about hard work and talent. Like, yes, it's really hard if you are short. It's really hard if you don't fit the requirements. It's like, it is hard. Like, it's going to be hard. And at the end of the, like I said, like at the end of the day, it's about hard work and talent, you know, because we are seeing that now. We are seeing, you know, more inclusivity and representation and diversity on all these like editorial modeling shoots and magazines and things like that are happening. So it is possible. It's just gonna be super hard if you don't fit the requirement. It's gonna take a lot of hard work. It's gonna take you a lot of time, a lot of effort. But if you're willing to do that and you have the talent, you can get there. Moving on. I want to apply to an agency, but I don't know if I'm ready yet. However, it is hard for me to reach out to photographers because I'm a bit shy. Any suggestions? So actually, yes, I do have suggestions, and I used to be you. Like, when I first started modeling, I remember that I was talking to this other girl who was a model, and I was asking her, like, oh my God, how did you start? Tell me, please, and stuff. And she was like, oh yeah, you know, I know this photographer. You should reach out to him. The thought of reaching out to a complete stranger when I was 19 years old, it was just like so scary to me. I could not wrap my head around the fact, like I was just like, I mean, I don't know what it was, like anxiety, shyness, I don't know, like I just couldn't, like I was just so afraid of doing that, you know. But this is something that I say a lot, and if you guys already know that saying, is that my goals don't care about my insecurities. And at that moment, the excitement and the love and the willingness to do what I've always wanted to do was way, way, way bigger than my fear of reaching out to a complete stranger, you know? Because I'm that type of people that before calling to, T-Mobile or whatever carrier that I had, or like electricity people, whatever it was, like it will freak me out. So from experience, you just have to do it. Like nothing wrong is gonna happen. Like you just, like, that's one of the reasons that I love modeling so much, is because it really took me out of my shell. Like I was very like, I'm not gonna talk to anyone. I'm not gonna talk to any strangers. I'm not gonna reach out to anyone. Like I'm just like, here, I can't call T-Mobile to ask them about my plan and service. Like I can't do that, And modeling really helped me to become this person that, here I am doing a podcast, talking to a lot of people. So you just have to do it, and you have to get started, and you have to do little steps, and you're going to get there, like, I trust, like, I know that, like, for sure, you're going to be fine. All right, next question. How can I convince my parents for modeling? So I would say to do as much research as you can. I would say, for example, on my podcast, I have a lot of interviews with other models and about how they started their careers, the things that they've been through, their hard times, rejection, how much it has cost them, including like money-wise, all that stuff. It's on my podcast. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, I will highly recommend for you to listen to them to really know what modeling entails. Because the thing is that if your parents have an idea of modeling, which might not be true, I don't know what your parents think, but let's give a hypothetical example that your parents have an idea about modeling that's not true, and then you want to do modeling, but the idea that you have about modeling is that also maybe not true, or you don't have the full picture. So it's going to be really hard for you to come into your parents and tell them like, hey, I want to model, and they have this idea, and they're going to be like, no, you're not going to do that, and then you're going to have this other idea, and you're going to be like, I want to, dad or mom, So first of all, do as much research as you can, watch as many interviews as you can, do, like I said, as much research as you can. So the day that you talk to your parents and tell them like, hey, I want to do this, you have, oh, actually, this is how you get started. This is how much money it involves. This is how much sacrifice is going to involve. This is how much time is going to involve. Don't worry about school. It's not going to affect that. I can model on the summer. I don't have to model while I'm in school. Like, all of that. Like, if you tell them all of this, then maybe they're going to be like, oh, actually, yeah, we can do that. It doesn't seem so unattainable, or like, actually, yeah, or unfortunately, they're still not going to be convinced. And if that is the case, don't worry about it. You can totally 100,000% start when you are an adult, because I started at 19, and I'm still, in quote, like just getting started. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about like time. Don't get desperate in thinking that if you're 14 you're too late, because it's not true. And if you can't right now because of your parents, then you will be able to do that later on. How to collaborate with photographers in a small town with less photographers. So here's the other thing about like starting your portfolio and getting experience and all that stuff, is that, at least for me, like I had to drive, I had to drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to get to a photographer that I was working with, sometimes a little bit farther. So another thing about modeling, and this is why it's important that your parents are involved, and if they can't be involved, you just have to wait until you're older, because it entails, a little bit of mobility, like traveling, to be able to do that. So I mean, do as much research as you can through Instagram to see who is near you. Use hashtags of your town and things like that to find who you can work with, and ask other models that are, if you know any other models that live near your town or in your town, you can get, more people to work with. But if you are in a small town and you can't find many, and the next photographer that you found are like an hour away, things like that, then you will have to be able to do that. And if you can't do that because you're not old enough to drive, you don't have a car, then you'll have to wait until you are able to do that. So you just have to balance that out. What should I say in a follow-up email to an agency I submitted to? So I'm going to say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to assume that this person is saying that they emailed or they submitted their application and they haven't heard back from the agency. So they're going to do a follow-up email to, to see if they're going to get a response and stuff. So from my experience in modeling, no answer is an answer. Unfortunately, a lot of agents and agencies, they just are not going to get around the people that they're going to say no to. You just have to assume. I applied to so many agencies and the vast majority never got back to me to tell me that they rejected me. They just never got back to me. And that was my answer. So I wouldn't really do a follow-up email. The only thing that I would do is that if you get a reply back telling you that you've been rejected, I think it's okay for you to ask, hey, can you please tell me why? Is there something that I can work with to reapply again in the future? And sometimes they will tell you, actually it is because your portfolio is not strong enough, or we already have your look. Whatever it is that they're going to tell you, I think that's like the only thing that you could do to get like an answer. But other than that, in modeling, for the most part, even when you're already signing, doing castings and stuff, no answer is an answer. All right, next question. How to not compare yourself to others, especially body and success. So actually, I love this question because this is something that I have been struggling with since I started modeling, and something that I've been working really hard not to do, which is compare not just my body, but also other people's success, and feel bad that I am not there yet. And, you get anxiety and things like that. So I was just actually talking to my therapist. I actually told her, like, I was struggling with that, and I was comparing and saying in my mind, like, I should be doing this. I should be here, and if I'm not there, then like, it's not good. I must, thing. And she helped me because she said like that, she taught me basically that those phrases that we tell each other are called, I'm going to look it up right now, but I think they're called thinking errors. And people are not realizing that they do that. Okay, so I found it. So it says, thinking errors are faulty patterns of thinking that are self-defeating. They occur when the things you are thinking do not match up with reality. This sometimes also referred as cognitive disorders. Distortions. Also referred as cognitive distortions. Those who commit thinking errors often don't realize they're doing so. So basically, when you tell yourself you must be this way, you should be this way, like you should be doing as good as this model right now, you should have this body that you don't have, you must be skinny, you must have clear skin. No, you don't. There's no rule. Like there's no should or you shouldn't or you must not have. Like those are thinking errors. Like, there's no fact behind them that you have to be or do this or be here. You don't have to. So she told me that whenever I have that thought in my mind, to change it to, I would like to, I would like to be where this person is at, I would like to be as fit as this person, but you change that like pressure that you're putting on yourself, that you must, you should, you have to, you know what? I would like to. I don't have that, but I would like to. It would be nice. So I really hope that helps. But there's another question that is like going into that same thing that I'm going to talk a little bit later on. So hopefully that helps anyone, because I think it has helped me. It's still really hard. I feel like here's another thing. With your mind, you have to practice new patterns. That's the thing. So if you have a pattern going on and you try to switch it, it's not going to switch overnight. It's going to continue because like the brain is a muscle. Like thinking it's kind of like a muscle, you know, and it's kind of like working out. Your first workout, you're not going to be fit. You have to do a ton of workouts and in order to become fit. So if you're trying to switch this pattern from I must and I should to it would be nice, it's just going to take time, basically. So don't give up if you just started, if you think about it, doing it, and after 2 days, it doesn't work, basically. Does your skin ever break out from clients' makeup? Do they adjust for people with sensitive skin? So actually, like, and I think this was my fault, to be honest, but there was a time that I was really struggling with my skin and I had like little bumps on my forehead, and I really did feel that every time I did a shoot and the makeup was too heavy, I will get like new pimples on my forehead, on my face, whatever. And I really thought that it was the makeup. Now that I have a really nice skincare routine, I wouldn't be able to tell. Also because, you know, the pandemic and everything. And even if sometimes when I shoot, I have to do my own makeup. So I wouldn't be able to tell you like precisely if it happens or not. I think that it was probably my skincare routine that was not working. And I was probably having a situation of like oil, whatever. And then I was working out and stuff. But, besides that, yes, when you go to a shoot and if you're getting your makeup done there and by a makeup artist, the makeup artist always asks you if you have any sensitivities, if you're allergic to something, whatever it is that you can or can't have in your skin, they ask you. And if they don't ask you, make sure you tell them because they will most likely have something for your skin. So yeah, they do adjust depending on your skin. What are the best agencies for petite models in Asia and Europe? So I actually have a list of petite friendly agencies on my website. You can go to andreaventuramodel.com/blog and I have the list there and include several countries, including countries in Europe. Unfortunately, I haven't found any agencies in Asia yet to include on the list, but there are countries in Europe definitely. I'm blonde and I have invisible eyelashes and eyebrows. Would it be okay for me to have makeup just for this? And she's talking about digitals. So it all depends what type of agency you're submitting to, but I think that's okay if you have a little bit of makeup on. She's just saying, if she just like puts like mascara and a little bit on her eyebrows, I don't see a problem with that. There's this like a model that I know that she signed to top model agencies, and I remember I sent her some of my digitals for her to just check them out, and I told them like, oh, by the way, like I have foundation on, you know, and she was like, don't worry about it, like we all put foundation on, you know, and I was like, oh, like it says no makeup on, but they put makeup on, you know, so I'm not saying to put makeup on, to put a lot of makeup on and stuff, but I think you can do that. And I also think that you're going to be fine if you don't too. You know, if you have very like blonde eyelashes, eyebrows, I think you're still going to be fine if you don't. But if that makes you feel more confident and comfortable, if you put a little bit on, I think you should be fine. So now I want to kind of like answer this question, but it goes along with the last question that I answered about like not comparing yourself. And it is, what was the hardest mental block for you to overcome? And how did you do it? So besides, you know, comparing yourself and stuff, one of the things that I really, really struggled at the very beginning, and I just wish I could go back and hug, you know, the younger Andrea. It's just like, I was so anxious and so, I don't know if this is the word distress, maybe, I don't know, but I was so worried when I first started modeling because when I first started to do modeling full time, when I was going full in, you know, I just graduated college and I just decided to, instead of pursuing a 9-to-5 job, I was going to do modeling. And I was just like so worried, and I was so like, I don't know how I can express this, you know, but I was so lost and I didn't know how to do it. And I felt this huge pressure that I had to figure it out and I had to be successful by tomorrow and all that stuff, you know. And I was listening, and I really hope that I can make my point. But basically, like, I am not a psychologists, therapists, whatever, but I highly recommend to do your own research and go to therapy. Like, I honestly, like, I just started going to therapy recently, and I think it's amazing. Like, I think it's so cool. Like, honestly, like, legit, I think going to therapy is one of the coolest things because I learned so much about myself and about the world and how people act and stuff. It's just like, I don't know, I feel like it's the coolest thing. Like, I really don't understand why going to therapy has been such a huge, like, taboo subject and weird to talk about, and like, I just don't get it, because I think it's like one of the coolest things that we can do as humans is go to therapy. It's raining. Okay. But yeah, I just think it's so cool, and I think like it should be something like going to a gym, or like going to a dentist. Not even going to a dentist, because we do that like once or twice a year, but like something normal on our daily practice of being human. Is it snowing? Sorry, I just like, what? So I was listening to this psychiatrist podcast, and I thought it was so cool because he was talking about perfectionism and how like he kind of like decoded, and it's basically like perfectionism comes from our fear of not being accepted by the group, which is like, you know, right now in our day and age, I will assume it's like society, but it is kind of like back then, like back when we were just evolving as humans, when we were like just starting being humans in like an evolving process, like thousands, millions years ago. You know what I'm trying to say, you know? So back then, it was this huge fear of not being accepted by the group, because you needed the group to survive, and if the group did not accept you and left you like on your own, you were gonna die, because you needed the group for shelter, for food, to stay safe, etc. So that is engraved in our genes till this day. So your fear of not being accepted because you're not pretty enough, you're not successful enough, you don't have that much money, you don't have the nicest clothing, you don't talk that well, you don't have the nicest person, like, I don't know what it is that you have the fear of. It really goes back to our pre people, that fear of being left outside of the group and dying because of that, you know? So when you think about it, it's kind of like now in our day and age, you need yourself. All you need is yourself to be happy. Like you need to learn that you can be happy by yourself. And I'm not saying like don't have any friends, don't have family, whatever, you know, but I'm just saying like you can be happy with yourself, and you shouldn't have that fear. Obviously, easier said than done. I'm just saying like what the psychiatrist was saying, that you shouldn't have that fear of being alone. You should be comfortable being alone, that it's okay, and you can be happy by yourself, which entails a whole like self-love situation too, you know? So that's really interesting, you know? So basically, when I've been in that path of like, comparing myself to other people, and I'm not that successful, or like I'm not that thin, or like whatever, you know, it goes back to that genetic predisposition that we have as humans. And then the other thing that he was saying is that is so common for us to say like, oh yeah, I'm my biggest critic, you know, I'm my biggest critic. We are all our biggest critics, you know. And he was saying how, no, that's actually not true. It's actually the fact that somebody somewhere in your life told you something, that you were not good enough, you were not thin enough, you were not pretty enough, whatever it is that they told you. And that is the voice inside of your head, that is the one that's talking to you and is telling you that you can't do something, that you are not going to do this, that you are incapable of doing that. So it is like being able to understand your genetic predisposition, and also being able to actually really listen to that voice and be able to see who told you that. And you don't need to listen to that voice, you know? So those are pretty cool things that I learned on that podcast episode that I listened to, and I really wanted to share. There's a lot more than he shares. It's in Spanish, so I don't know if anybody's interested in listening to this, because obviously I know everybody speaks Spanish, but if you are a Spanish listener or watcher, the podcast is called Supracortical, and you can find it on Spotify. But yeah, basically it's a great, way to free yourself from that anxiety that I'm not as successful as this person, I'm not where this person is, I should, and that anxiety that if you're not there, you're not good enough, So I think that's a really great, it's still a learning process for me. I'm still doing that, working on it, but definitely that has been like a really big thing for me. But it's really good to know that you can work through it. And get to a better place. And with that, we end the episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again for sending your questions. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. I really hope it was helpful. And I'll see you guys, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.